All right, so let's get to the dailies and take a look at what some of these dailies are saying. Let's bring in our guests and analyst, public affairs analyst Ambrose Igboke. He joins us virtually. Mr. Igboke, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, good morning. It's Igboke, not Igboke.
My apologies. You know, we're used to the W in the name. All right,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's begin with the Vanguard newspaper, Mr. Igboke. It leads with some charge from the governor of Niger State talking about insecurity. When he talked about insecurity, he said, defend yourselves. Governor Bago charges Niger residents, vows never to negotiate or pay ransom to bandits. I'm not sure what signal he's sending, because if you're saying defend yourself, how should they defend themselves? Nigerian government, Nigerian law doesn't allow people to bear arms. What exactly do you think he's talking about here, Mr. Igboke?
I don't understand what he's talking about, because what would the people defend themselves with? With their bare arms? Or are they going to use their cutlasses and knives in the kitchen to defend themselves? Or are they going to use bow and arrow against sophisticated weaponry from the terrorists that are ravaging them? So I think rather than the governor say this, I think he should bring up some kind of security mechanism that is in-house to see how he can use that to support whatever the military and the police and other security agencies are doing. For example, what happens to the forest guards? Some other states are also coming up with forest guards, equipping them with weaponry so that they can also fight back. So what happens to the security watch? So there are parameters allowed by the Constitution for states to bring up their own security apparatus. I think the governor should explore that, and then he should also involve the local vigilante, equip them. The civilian JTF did wonderful things in the far north when the crisis of Boko Haram was at a very high level. So he could also try to inculcate such parameters to his security. He should employ the local hands, and so that they can join in fighting. But telling people just through television speech to defend yourself, defend with what? So our leaders should stop saying this kind of things. They should roll up their sleeves and get to work to combat this insecurity ravaging the people whom they are governing.
Well said. I would have loved so. In case our audience, if you want to see more of the thoughts of the governor of Niger State, Governor Umar Bago, you can go to page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. Mr. Igboke, a few other stories I would like you to touch on, and that has to do with, on the side, you see state complicity fueling religious killings in Nigeria. That is accredited to some faith leaders. You know, the issue about Nigeria being designated or to be designated as a nation of concern, and we've seen video of a particular cleric, a preacher, who is saying, look, whatever is being said is true, because there's the argument of whether there's genocide against Christians. You know, the government has said there is no such thing, but the people are saying, look, you're being selective with the truth. There is genocide against Christians, and there's that argument back and forth whether there is. But they are saying that the attitude of the states in terms of institutions of state is even what is fueling some of these killings that is termed genocide against Christians. What do you make of it?
Well, if we remove the politics of it and face the statistics of it, it is very clear that the majority of the victims of this carnage over the years have been Christians. We will think of, since we forget so easily about the bombings of churches in southern Kaduna, the Madala issue is still very fresh in our memory on the Christmas period when the church was bombed on the 26th of December, when at the peak of Christmas. We know of the killings in Benue. In my own state, Enugu State here, sometime in 2016 at Uzuwani, people gathered in church for morning prayer, they were massacred. So when you check the statistics, what of in Plateau, where basically almost all the victims have been Christians. So if we want to, not to sound politically correct, but to look at statistics, you'll find out that some people, some schools of thought who are saying that it is a faith genocide, may not be totally incorrect, because when you check the statistics, you find out that the majority of those that are killed have been Christians. That is why the state needs to step in so that these dichotomy and fear of oppression over a particular faith does not magnify. The state itself is not enough to issue press conferences when this kind of things happen. We need to roll up our sleeves and see how we can, using international partners, and there are a lot of friends of Nigeria, even among the world superpowers. These things can be, actually defeated. My take always over the years is that the Nigerian military have what it takes to crush these insurgency. Why that is not happening, well, it is left for anybody's imagination.
Absolutely. Before we jump to the next daily, just a touch on this. We're seeing on page 19, staying with the Vanguard newspaper, we're seeing on the side, on the left side, that should be your left side, that your right side now, Aliko Dangote to sell 10% stake in refinery on NGX. With the back and forth between them and Pengassan and all the players in that sector, argument over importation versus refining locally and its market share now. The ambition for Nigeria is to be two things, or to primarily, basically to have energy security and also to be a net exporter of petroleum product. With Dangote refinery and other refineries coming on stream, we're getting to that point, but there seems to be this industry-wide agitation over workers and all of that. But the other part is, which I want you to speak to, is that to improve governance structure is to be quoted on the exchange and 10%. I think it's time for Nigerians to take advantage of this and go own a multi-billion dollar company. What do you make of it?
Well, it's a good opportunity, at least it's a starting point, but 10%, if you sell 10% of the company to the public and you hold on to 90% of the company, that's an overwhelming majority. And if you understand the way the boardroom politics works, even 49% over 51%, you find out that the 51% is still a majority stakeholder, or shareholder. But it's a good move because a company of that nature is so huge. It's good that it's not controlled by just one person and his, private investors. But it's good to go public. But these are the things we should watch so that, people have more say in what happens in a company and also be able to come to the defense of the company when things happen like that. But I think over the years, they may be able to expand to give out up to 30 or 40%. But as it is now, the 10% is a good start, but it's still very, very, it's a minority stake, a very huge minority stake. And by the time people come to invest, because it's only one person or group that will buy that 10%, by the time you fragment it into the various shareholders, you find out that the highest shareholder, that 10% may just be maybe 0.5 or 1%. And therefore, Dangote still have a very, very strong, firm grip in what happens there.
Well, the man may be protecting his business. You may never know at the end of the day. Let's get to the Guardian newspaper. And it leads with a big one with the faces there. The president, the minister of finance and coordinating minister of the economy, Wale Edo. I can see Adedeji there, the FIRS guy. Now it's going to be Nigeria Revenue Service. And then the customs. FG begins public finance reforms ahead of the new tax regime in January. That's a page 6 read on the Guardian newspaper. If there's anything agitating the minds of Nigerians besides the next election cycle, the general election in 2027, is the tax reform. And now some housekeeping is being done as far as this reform. I don't have all the details, but what do you make of it as far as the policies and these reforms are concerned?
I think there is not enough sensitization and awareness created about the new tax reforms. Most of the things we hear are fragments of information in the newspaper and the mainstream media. I think the FIRS should do more, and the Ministry of Finance and whoever the stakeholders that are involved, the Ministry of Information. But many Nigerians don't even understand the complexities or the new things they are trying to introduce in these tax systems. We heard about the one that's going to affect our bank accounts, whether you are going to have a TIN or not from January 1. So there's so much discordant tune going on in this sector and about this very particular policy. what can happen is let them wrap up on their, information and sensitization, so that even everybody, even the person selling on the streets or in the market, should know what they are talking about. At this level, even a lot of civil servants and the upper middle class don't even understand what you're talking about. The educated ones don't even understand the complexity of where you're trying to roll out. How much more those who are not even educated. So I hope this also will not cause panic, because we don't want to go back to a situation where people will withdraw their money from the banks and keep them at home. It will affect the fluidity in the markets and then the liquidity also. Let us also try to see that these reforms do not affect the culture we are trying to introduce, especially cultures when it comes to banking. We are talking about that a lot of Nigerians are unbanked, especially the informal sector. So if you want to, some of them have started going to the bank again, and if you want to discourage them with some of these complexities, they are so keep their money under their pillow, or some people will slash their mattress and put their money as they used to do in those days, or even dig a hole in their compound and keep it and say that I don't understand what the government is doing. So to make sure that we avoid these kinds of lethargy in the sector, I think the policy pushers a lot of explanation and a lot of sensitization, town hall meetings and all those things to introduce. You don't just sit in Abuja and create some policies and shove it down our throats without making us understand the nitty-gritty of what you have given us. So I will challenge the Ministry of Finance, the CBN, the FIRS, and all those people who are involved in this to ensure that Nigerians understand in their various languages and even in Pidgin English and all those things, to ensure that people understand the basics of this new policy.
Mr. Booker, before I let you go, I don't think the government, whether federal or state or at any level, should blame Nigerians for being hesitant. There's tax compliance hesitancy anywhere in the world. Nobody loves to pay taxes, but especially in climes like ours, where we see some public officials embezzle these funds and we don't see what these monies are used for. So the hesitancy is even going to be worse. But let me ask you a question. I had a conversation with someone who lives in London as to some of these issues. Of course, Bola Tinubu is very good at optimization. That's the president now. When it comes to, he's an accountant, Dazak is an accountant. So if you talk to accountants, generally they're always looking for how to, get money out of the system. Every profession has their bias. So that's the bias of an accountant, how to put the money, how to optimize to leverage the system to get more people into the tax nest. How the money is utilized is a different kettle of fish. So some persons were saying that the payee or personal income tax, nobody should even pay it at all, because money is safer in the hands of people. Because the federal government says, of course, we have it on record that in terms of Naira terms, there is record FAC allocation right now under this administration, sometimes 2 trillion in terms of what they've generated to share. But some people are saying the monies are safer in the hands of the people. Let them not pay tax, but they will be forced to spend, whether they spend it senselessly or sensibly. That's a different kettle of fish than giving it to government, who sometimes end up in the pockets of a few persons. What do you make? Where is our money safer, in people's pockets or in the government's hands?
Well, people who are saying this are turning economics on its head, and maybe they forget so easily about socialism. The socialism was practiced for some number of years in the Eastern Bloc of especially the USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic then, and which has Russia today and some other, Ukraine and some other countries. They practice socialism, and that is the concept that's been, as you just mentioned now, where the money is in the hands of the state, and then people who live as a welfare, no tax payments, nothing, you live by the welfare of the state. It didn't work. As of 1990, 1991, all the Berlin Wall fell, Russia, the USSR disintegrated, Russia, so what we are seeing now, everybody is gradually moving to capitalism. But on the other hand, capitalism, that the people who collect tax and run government as a business, is also very dangerous. You need to mix it with a little bit of welfareism or socialism, just like practice in some countries in Europe and United States, where the people have the kind of social protection from the capitalists. But in Nigeria, I think what we are doing, we are going overboard. where the Bola Ahmed Tinubu government is treating governance as a private company, as a company that must make profits. That is not governance. Governance is about, first of all, the security of the people. It's about the welfare of the people. And then you now talk about what you use to sustain those welfare and as well keep government afloat. But when you run it as a mere company with mere numbers, profits, statistics, and the rest, you are going to destroy the very essence of governance. And that is why sometimes I say this government should slow down on some of these things, because Nigerian government is not a blue chip company. It's not a company quoted in the stock market in London or Lagos or anywhere. They are not in the race for profit. Their work is to enable the private companies to make money, not trying to strangulate the citizens with multiple taxation.
Very well said, Mr. Igboke. Thank you so much for your thoughts this morning. Mr. Ambrose Igboke is a media consultant, the chairman of Guild of Public Affairs Analysts of Nigeria, Enugu State Chapter. Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Appreciate it. All right, I'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking insecurity. There was a video, I'm sure you maybe chanced on it, but if you didn't chance on that video, there was a girl, gun pointed at her, and people who kidnapped her were demanding for 20 million naira before her release. Well, the story around is that she may no longer be alive. But we're going to get to all of this with a person who has been very passionate about trailing these kinds of stories and even helping to rescue them. Harrison will be joining us in just a moment. Stay with us.